Alright, it's time to really build this thing. So since I took the H out of my black car and put in my Accord, this is going to be my only Prelude. And well, the original plan with this is just leave it mostly stock and then build a black one, but now it's all changed. I'm going to like combine some of the parts between this and the black one to make one car. And this isn't going to get swapped. This is going to be a turbo build. Yeah. So it's already got a B20a. So all it's really going to get is forged pistons and H23 rods. The trans, right now it's got a trans from an 89 Prelude in it, but that's going to be switched to D20a. We'll install an LSD. Probably do some other things in there, like the synchros. Alright, so with my climate, I've learned over the years, like, so normally I'll paint my blocks and stuff, transmissions, but over time I get some corrosion coming through, and well, I've tried multiple different paints and different techniques for prepping the surface, and it just always happens eventually. Let's see, like in here, oxidation just forms underneath. So what I'm going to try this time is going pretty much all in. I'm going to strip the block and everything all the way down, sandblast it, and I'm going to use Cerakote, satin aluminum, and this stuff needs to be actually baked on. So you mix it with a hardener, and I have this old propane oven that's just big enough to fit that block. So I'm gonna go through the whole prep process, Cerakote the block, and see if that, after a few years, if it's still good. So I've just done the first test pieces, just an exhaust heat shield. The Cerakote's a very thin ceramic coating, and this stuff, if you're applying it correctly, it's thin enough that you can get it in threads, and it works fine. You can thread the bolt in just fine. I'm thinking that satin aluminum will look good for the block. It'll be the block head, transmission, basically all aluminum stuff. I'm gonna put this on it to hopefully stop this oxidation coming through. So here's the underbody. I want to clean it up a little bit. A while back I kind of jacked up as far as I could and hit it with the pressure washer, get as much of this old coating off as I could. Basically I want to recoat it. Now actually I already did a test area right here. The new coating. This looks like it'll be pretty good. There are I got a few small areas. I'm not sure you can even see it on camera. There's just slightly, see brown basically. You can tell there's like some very slight rust. Let's see if I can get that starting in some spots. Overall, there's not really, like, see, like right there, there's some it's very light surface rust. A little bit more here if someone jacked it up long in the past, but so those areas I want to hit with the wire brush. Go over it with Pour 15. Maybe some paint over that, then the undercoating. Alright, there it is so far. Used about 3.5, 4 cans of this undercoating. I just put the pour 15 on this area to let that dry for a few hours, and then I'll undercoat along the edge here. Alright, I just did the rear bumper. It had a bunch of surface rust. See this like rough area, these rough areas. That's all surface rust, and well, I got lazy. I have multiple of these, and then did a little experiment. Put a thick coat of pour 15 on it, and I sprayed it with Rust-Oleum rust converter. And I'm just gonna see what it looks like in a few years. See if the rust is coming through, or if that stuff stopped it. Still continuing. Got everything up under the gas tank. And as far as the gas tank goes, did it as well. And while it's out, because it's easy to get to, I'm going to actually do a wall grow pump right now. Further progress. Tank is done. Cerakoted that. And I accidentally ordered a whole extra pint of tactical gray. So I was originally going to do all this stuff in like satin powder coat. But now, because I have all this extra Cerakote, I'm going to do it in this gray. This, the lower control arms, upper control arms, and knuckles. And maybe a few other little things. I also did the fuel filler. This is burnt bronze Cerakote. I was just curious to see what it looked like, so I just decided to do that. Okay, mostly done. It's been well, it's been a lot of work. If you want to know where to get all these bushings, I'll have a link in the description. Back to the B20a. Got all the easy stuff off. Now it gets down to the messy part. Some mods I want to do. Well, I want to add more vents to the valve cover, but you know, like on B series, they'll put them on the front. But obviously, you can't do that on this because it's too short, and you can't really put them back here because it's so busy right around here. We got the fuel rail and everything. There's not enough room, I don't think, to actually get fittings on here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm not totally sure I'll actually use them, but I'm gonna, while the block's stripped down, I'm gonna weld in some of these Dash 10 O-ring boss. I'm gonna weld one right here. So those are about the only spots you can actually use. Up here is covered up by the water pipe, and down here is the half shaft. That'll let me run bigger lines to a catch can. You know, another mod I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to be using a standalone. One of these Bosch knock sensors, but normally on Honda blocks you see the knock sensor like right here. But again, we've got the water pipe running right through here, and there's really not room. So I'm going to weld something on the front of the block right here to let me screw or bolt that down. I recommend staying organized. Okay, the head's cleaned up enough for the next step. We're going to be cleaning up several things with the ports. So to do any major port changes, you really need a flow bench. It's not good to just try to do it, because you could be making it worse for all you know. But there are things you can do. Like see areas like this. You can kind of smooth that out. Can't really see it on camera. You'll be able to feel it. Almost always there's like a big lip right here. That'll hit that, blend that in right like that. Sides too. And also in the chambers themselves. Any area, let's see if I can get it. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a sharp edge here. I'm going to take a die grinder and carefully just break that edge. Anywhere there's a sharp edge, I'm going to slightly break it, because those create hot spots. Yeah, that's as far as I'm going to take it. So you can see, like, in the chambers, I just smoothed over these edges a little bit. The exhaust side, pretty much just blended the seats. Slight polish. Like I said, not really changing the shape of the ports. Intake, it's a little bit more work. Part of the Cerakote process is thoroughly degreasing whatever you're going to coat. So I got the head soaking in this extreme simple green and the water mix. And I haven't scrubbed it or anything, and I already see the fluid's gotten darker. I can see bubbles coming off it. So something's happening. Basically, I'm going to soak it in here for a while, maybe scrub a little bit on the outside. Then it's going to go in my oven to get baked. Try to bake out any oils that are still in there. Yeah, we're cooking now. Okay, it's prep for blasting. Blocked off everything I could as far as passages go. Got the valves in it. I'm just using little O-rings to hold them in place. Alright, it's been blasted and cleaned again. I'm doing a final soak in the degreaser. Another final bake. Burn off anything that might be left. Then I'll spray it. Jeez. Yeah, it's finally ready to get sprayed. It's a ton of work to prep it. Well, making things look pretty is all well and good, but that's not actually why I originally got the Cerakote stuff. Originally, my idea was just to use this stuff. Coat the top of the forged pistons and the skirts. And I just kind of went down a rabbit hole of all these different colors and stuff I can coat. These are the last coats I bought. included. Yeah. So I'm going to cut the top of these with that, and the skirts with that. Also, this micro slick, you can put on other stuff too. I'm going to put on the cams, and this is going to actually go on the inside the chamber and on the valve faces. I got the cams pretty much prepped. I blasted these with the head. Piston coat on the cylinder head's been applied. Curing it now for about an hour. Also did the cams with the micro slick. Next up is the pistons. On these, I'm going to go over these edges with those buffing pads like it did in the cylinders to smooth them over a little bit. Then I'll coat them. Here's the first one. You can see all these little edges where they machined it. I smoothed them over compared to the untouched one where it's much sharper. That should reduce hot spots. Alright, here's the results so far. Did the chambers. Let's finish the pistons. Here's the block Cerakoted. Unfortunately, I think I didn't bake it enough to get the oils out before I sprayed it. So there's these bumps came up about halfway through the curing process. I think, well, I did it to their instructions, but I think they didn't really account for it. So I'm trying to do it with a huge chunk of aluminum. So I probably should have baked it at a little bit higher temperature and for maybe like twice as long. But most of this won't be visible. You know, I'll have the turbo manifold turbo here. And the area that is pretty visible, there's no problems, so it looks pretty good. So for this build, I'm using these H23 F series rods, same rods, because they are slightly bigger than the stock like B20a 5 rods. But otherwise they're the same dimensions. And to be honest, even these stock rods are probably fine for most people's builds. You're not going for really big power. But I mean, you can get these used factory rods for free or very cheap most of the time, so it's kind of like you might as well while you're building it. Alright, here's my B20a oil pump. Unfortunately, it was on its way out. There's a lot of wear. It's deep enough I can actually feel it pretty well. Even worse in here. It's wear there, and right there. And especially if you look on the, I don't know if the camera will pick it up. These are all rough. So, I mean, last time I had an oil pressure gauge on it, the pressure was fine, but yeah, I wouldn't want to put this back together in an engine. And unfortunately, this is one of the parts that is 3rd gen specific, and it can be hard to get a good new one, or well, you can't get any new ones, and you're just kind of rolling the dice if you get used ones. Luckily, because I've been doing this so long, I got lots of spares. So this is off a B21. And it has a slight amount of wear. I can't really feel it. It's much better if I'm gonna run this one, and I think it'll be fine. But if not, I actually have another B21 pump kind of buried upstairs. I'd have to dig out. I think this one will work.
Several months later.
Slight change of plans. Since the turbo build's taking too long, and I want to drive my car again, managed to score this JDM B20a. Came out of an imported SI States model. So there's actually not very many of these in the States. It's pretty much a B21A1 except for it doesn't have the EGR system, and it's actually kind of weird. It's a little dark, but it's got the USDM lower casting, but it's not machined for the EGR stuff, so it's just empty. Other than that, just a standard engine.